The following BLTV program is brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Please enjoy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this episode of Seize Your Business podcast. My name is Bryan McDonald, partner at OnPurpos Growth, and today I have Rost with me from Cloud Hat Solutions, and what we're going to be talking about today is how to leverage technology and MSP, managed service providers, in your business to grow it. So thanks for coming in today and talking.
All right, thank you, Brian.
So why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background about you and what Cloud Hat Solutions does?
Sure. Well, my background has been in technology for all my career. So I started as a developer, moved into program and project management, did a lot of business process, business re-engineering work as well. And so I've had a long career in technology, but now I want to take that, and I formed Cloud Hat Solutions in order to become a provider of services to smaller businesses, say in the 5 people to 200, maybe even upwards of 500, to become their go-to source for technology.
Cool. And I mean, you've shared with me your background before too. You've done some great work on like Wall Street, have you not?
I have. I was a technologist for many years, and then went and got my MBA at Yale, and then transitioned to work in the New York space to kind of transition to a consultant and program and project manager and process. Spending 2.5 years at JP Morgan on Wall Street, and spending a lot of time in the financial sector, in particular, among others.
Yeah, so you weren't just, you didn't just study computer science in college and get a job in the background. I mean, you were doing some great work.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, the challenges that these small businesses, 5 to 200 or up to 500, actually are having in the technology space, because I know from conversations with you, they're not really leveraging technology or looking at it in the right way to help use it to help grow their business.
Yes, many people are focused in, the business side, as they should be, in business growth. And what I'd like to help with is being able to add more focus to the technology side for them and support them from a business standpoint, but, and make technology leveraged for them. So, some of the things I see out there is, I can help with anything from planning and, how your spend should go, your long-term, your short-term spend. What kind of solutions are going to work best for the organization. A lot of options today are available in the cloud space. So it's less necessary for businesses to build their own infrastructures and deal with that expense and the complexities. So that can be their applications can go out on the cloud. A lot of people are finding also that it's easier to use packages these days than build their own. It can save money, again, save complexities.
What do you mean by packages?
Well, by packages, it would be vendor packages such as Salesforce for customer management.
Got it.
Or, some type of system for handling their accounting systems that uses industry standards and industry best practices, but isn't a real differentiator in the way that firms compete one from another. Most of those types of practices are fairly standard to the industry, and it's best for those solutions that are more standardized. Typically it's easier to go out and get a package from a vendor and have them support that and keep up with that.
Got it.
Especially useful in like compliance applications where there's a lot of expertise needed and there's a lot of follow-up needed in order to keep up with all the regulations. And that might be a distraction for somebody that, wants to focus really just on the new business and their clients to have to deal with that back end. So having a vendor that specializes in that typically works well as far as adding that to their suite of applications.
So what's happening if they're ignoring kind of they're doing their job and running, the business side and, getting new clients? What's happening if they're not paying attention to that compliance part?
Well, they can face fines, typically. You don't want to, get the government. You don't want to get on the government's bad
Yeah,
side.
no.
I mean, I've worked.
That's on my check.
I worked with one firm that dealt with dangerous chemicals, and they had an issue where they were facing $50 million in fines on compliance.
Wow.
So some of these amounts can be quite high.
Wow. And
what I needed to do with them was help them with their business process. What the government was insisting they do is define their process clearly, and then be able to make that to make sure that process was repeatable. So they could assure the government that they, in handling these dangerous chemicals, that they were able to had a clear checklist of what needed to be done, a clear understanding of where the handoffs were between the chemists to the packaging engineers to other areas of the business, to make sure that they were compliant with government standards.
So in this situation and maybe others, what was happening, or actually what wasn't going on that they were implying they were getting these fines? What was wrong with the process?
Well, it was a lot of different disciplines involved with it. So, dealing with chemicals, you had, PhD chemists, you had, had the salespeople, you had packaging engineers, and there were so many different disciplines that they were working somewhat in a stovepipe fashion. And they were working together. I mean, it was a very smart group of people, and they were working together. It was just, and the fines didn't come in because of a mistake that had been made. It was just merely that the government standard was to build the process. So they just needed to know how to do that and how to make sure to map the process end to end and meet the compliance need.
So it sounds like everybody's working together, but when it came to this process, they were all siloed on their own and not realizing that they weren't working together.
They're working within their disciplines. Also, there's geographies. They're working in France and England and the United States. There are different compliance procedures in each of those. Well, the compliance really is between Europe and the U.S.
Got it.
Compliance in Europe being stricter. So we really kind of ended up defining a process that would meet the standards of Europe, which in turn would also meet the standards of the U.S. So we got rid of the confusion of different jurisdictions. And
so is that what you see too? Is like there in IT, there's a lot of confusion going on?
Well, yes, indeed. I mean, it's a very complex field.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of different types of skills. Just in the technical skill sets alone, you've got the development side, you've got the business analyst side, you've got infrastructure. You have people to handle the business side and the strategy for technology, and all of these things become quite detailed and quite complex. And so, really, years of experience applying to that, where, rather than a smaller business growing their own shop, bringing in somebody experienced with managing that type of work, is a good value add, for their business.
And what typical outcomes do they get that they're not realizing when they solve this confusion, right? What happens to the business?
Well, the relationship with IT becomes much better in that they feel empowered by the business. There's not that disconnect because lots of times businesses kind of want to do X and technology provides them Y, and there's that disconnect, and that can happen, one because of the communications to the technology department, but sometimes it can also be the expectations of the business. So we need to help set realistic expectations of what the technology can provide for that particular budget, and be able to kind of manage both sides to kind of make sure that we meet a cost-effective solution, meeting the priorities of the business. So
it seems to imply that businesses aren't really leveraging their IT and their people in the most effective way.
Well, I would say yes. I think it's very common. I ran into somebody the other day that was in industrial die casting.
Okay.
And they said that they had bought an ERP system, enterprise relationship planning,
Yep.
so covered all of their accounting and procurement type of applications. And they said they were probably only using 10% of it, because that's what was, when they implemented, that was kind of what they converted over on. They were using maybe 10% of the capabilities.
Got it.
And they converted that over. So they needed to go and they need to work on, seeing what kind of opportunities there are to expand the use of that ERP system. So, and that will help them to grow their business. It will help them to kind of put in better processes in place. But mostly it should just provide them scalability in that example.
Do you see that the 10% of usage of applications like this or piece of technology, you see that as being common out there?
Oh yes, very. I think it. As I mentioned before, it's such a complex area that sometimes it doesn't get as much focus as it needs, or it doesn't get the right talent coming in to find the right solution. And confusion is just part of the nature of technology anyways, because it's so detailed. It comes down to bits and bytes. So, there's just so much complexity at so many different levels that, without the right management and communication, it can get quite confused. A common issue being that I find is coming into a project is that there's not a clarity of what people need to be working on day to day, and there's not a common vision among the technologists.
Really?
So that's usually something I need to come in and, I don't want confused people because then they get frustrated.
Yeah.
So, I want to make sure they're clear on, not only what needs to be done, but their part in that and how they're going to work together. And that's usually, that's an issue I find in any type of work I do in technology. It's the nature of the technology environment.
Why do you think that is? That it seems to me that what you're saying is you just come in and you just see people are just working and not necessarily moving towards a specific goal. They're just like doing a bunch of different things, right? It's that.
Yeah. I mean, it can happen that way.
Yeah.
I worked on a merger project fairly recently, so it was like a $16 billion merger project, and I was working on the human resources.
Okay.
And it was for a company in the pharmacology space.
Okay.
And I came in, and they were under really tight deadlines, right? So when the business was doing the negotiation with the other business for purchasing it, they didn't really stop and say, "Hey, technology guys, what do you think of the schedule?" They built their schedule according to the business
they're
needs.
just the technology people, right?
And then we had to scramble to kind of make those dates. And so I came into the project after it had already started, and I was coming to meetings with a development team that was very confused, very frustrated. But, they were bringing like their whole onshore staff, 7 people into every meeting.
Wow.
Because they didn't know what each of them were supposed to do.
Really?
And so, it was just they were trying their very hardest, but, every meeting I went to, it was like, 7 to 10 people from that firm to, come in to try to understand or try to get a handle on the project. And it was a bit over their head from the business standpoint because there was a lot of lack of clarity on the business side as well. It was a merger. It was happening fast. Things would change as the negotiations moved forward. So it was, it was just a combination of things that made a very tough situation on the technology side. So so I worked a lot with the business on getting more clarity on the business side, and then started to assign people to particular roles so that they were being leveraged, and had specific assignments, and that ended up making for a successful outcome.
Really?
But from where it started, it was, it was just a ball of confusion.
Yeah.
And so, but I was kind of the intermediary between the business side and trying to push for requirements and clarity, and and help prioritize those requirements to kind of keep the team productive. And we met our deadlines, and we it worked out well. But mergers are particularly tough, for a technology team.
And that was 16 billion.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So that wasn't small.
No, it wasn't small.
No.
So it was very high exposure, very important. I asked for extensions and things of that sort, and no, it was just the deal was moving, and I just needed to accommodate it. So it was. It was tough, a tough project, but we managed through it.
So do you see a lot that, in these companies that have technology and business, that there is no kind of intermediary that helps them get things done, and that is maybe one of the reasons why there's this confusion and tension?
Yes, I think that's really. A lot of people want to throw it kind of over the wall, on the business side. Here's what we want. Please go do it. And with the best of intentions on the technology side,
right.
They need more interaction. So the projects that I've found that are the most successful is where the business is involved, maybe not every day, but let's say every day, to be able to help to communicate what's needed on the business side, and to help kind of take a look at what's being done and feed that back to the business people, because they don't always know exactly what they want up front. Lots of times you'll come back with a prototype or, some type of how you've interpreted things, and they'll look at it, and it has to change and iterate over time. So, the value in those iterations and the business participation in that, will be a far healthier outcome.
Yeah, so it's not just throwing it over. It's, it's you have to work. You have to work and kind of go through these iterations. You can't just say, "Here's what we want. Come back when you're done." It sounds like that's what's happening.
Well, in some cases, I think as Agile comes out, I think it's becoming more aware. I think technology's had more of a voice in trying to get that. More iterative approach and more communication on a day-to-day basis. Although, it's always kind of a tough point, and you always have to kind of try to pull in the business, and, because they're out trying to make money for the business. And
exactly.
So, it's not their, necessarily their priority. So there needs to be some convincing, on that side to kind of get that time that you need.
So why would they... what are some reasons why they should make it a priority in your point of view?
Well, in the end, they'll get the best leverage out of technology. It'll be, very suited to what their business is, what they do day to day. It'll meet their expectations on what the technology should do for them. And through iteration, it helps with in participation, it helps with their understanding of the solution, and the solution grows and changes over time. As they see that, they're like, okay, well that makes sense. But now that I see that, let's
next.
I think we could do this. And so staying involved with it on the business side, helps with that kind of dialogue as it goes forward. And then also just doing things in smaller pieces. Back in the day, we do projects that took a year and a half to deliver, and by the time we delivered those, the business went from A to C.
Yeah.
And so, we had to kind of go back to the drawing board. So nowadays, the techniques and the tools are very helpful for being able to provide that more iterative approach, and be able to kind of make sure that the business is on board with the solution at the time it rolls out.
So what are some things that some of our listeners who own a business and have this technology in the background, what are some things that you can suggest that they can take action on to start changing the way that they're interacting with their IT and technology?
Well, I could put a shameless plug in here.
Sure, go for it. Yeah, that's all right.
It's really get the right people to help with the leadership of that effort.
And not try do it on your own?
Well, I would suggest, no, I would say there's a lot to this field. There's a lot of knowledge, and there's just a lot of interaction with technology mindsets and technology people, and how to organize things that a smaller business, say, or really even a larger business, but somebody whose focus is on something other than technology for their career, to try to start to build a technology department, it's going to be pretty tough. The learning curve is pretty steep. Yeah. And so, I would suggest getting help.
Do you see any areas of businesses that are low-hanging fruit that people should pay attention to most? That's common in across industries? I'm not. A lot of professional services firms, I think, have in the financial field, possibly the legal field. I think they have a lot of opportunity to kind of, offload some of their applications, or not offload the management of their technology, so that they can focus. And those people in the professional services are often in very highly leveraged positions. So, they bringing in technology usually has a fairly straightforward cost benefit, and that you're, enabling them to, spend more time doing their business. You're making it easier for them to do business. And then, other areas, all areas need technology these days. Yeah, right. But, other areas that are, somewhat technology focused that I'm looking at in the Chicago area right now would be like supply chain firms, pretty good set of, pretty good collection of those in the Chicago area. Small pharmaceutical firms, those are, highly interesting, and highly, the amount of compliance and defined procedure and the complexity in those businesses, warrants a substantial investment in technology and very good oversight. Also, even we have a fairly large industrial base here as well. So, the types of systems there for materials procurement and quality systems and warehousing and manufacturing, all of that type of business too, is so very highly automated these days. There's just a lot of opportunity to, leverage your business more and to, gain more, grow through the technology systems rather than grow through adding a lot of people to handle those functions, to try to work smarter. Yeah, it sounds like it's way more efficient. It is. Yeah. It's way more efficient, higher quality. The throughput is, much more accelerated. The amount of inventory that you have to maintain is dramatically reduced. Yeah. And it just really is the way to go these days, to kind of try to speed up and to work effectively in the industrial sector. Well, Co, I appreciate you being on and sharing all of your insights. It was very valuable. Well, thank you, Brian. Yeah, no problem. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in to this episode of Seize Your Business. We'll be sharing all of Co's information here, whether if you're watching the video, it'll be to the side or below, or if you found it on the website, it'll be found on the website, and anything we shared. So my name again is Bryan McDonald from OnPurpos Growth. Thanks for joining us. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching our video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Click the subscribe button for new videos every week, and download and review us on iTunes. Visit learn-about-law.com for other legal-related articles and videos. Visit our business podcast and video blog, seizeyourbusiness.com, and visit Making Real Estate Fun for real estate videos and podcasts. Call us at 630-324-6666 for a free consultation.